right. We're podcast in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone. This is actually a big treat and our first episode of the Athlete's Edge podcast, powered by PVL at pvl.com. Find us on social at Pure Vita Labs. And excited to have this guy on today to kick off our podcast, and somebody that's actually very close to our brand and a legend, especially in the parts where our head office is in British Columbia. 13 seasons as a CFL professional athlete, 2 Grey Cups. I'm with Angus Reid today, and happy to have you at angusreid64.com. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well, Ian, and I'm very honored to be the inaugural guest on this, kicking this thing off.
Yeah. So if we
time coming.
If we stumble a little bit, and but we're gonna have some fun and learn about Angus. And Angus, you and I, this is actually the first time that we've talked in person, really. I mean, this is face to face. This is as social distancing as it gets, I would assume. But I'm gonna read something that I think kind of sums up a little bit of what we're going to talk about in you. It's actually from your website, and it says, from a physical and talent perspective, Angus Reid had no business playing professional football for 13 seasons, earning multiple All-Stars, 2 Grey Cups, and it was his relentless determination and extensive guidance of others that made his dream become a reality. And that's what really the Athlete's Edge, this podcast, is about. Is there are so many people playing sports of all levels, weekend warriors, things and that. It takes so many things to fall in line: work ethic, training, supplementation. You have it. It's really what makes up that mindset and the Athlete's Edge. And from reading this, I can't think of a kind of a better example of where all that comes through. But before we dive in, we're in all strange circumstances these days, with COVID happening and whatnot. How are you? How's your family? How's your setup at home? What's changed in your life over the last little while?
I'm doing well, thank you. I got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, 2 boys. So they're at home like they normally are. My 4-year-old now is not at preschool, so he's here full time, which he loves. He couldn't imagine anything better, not having to go to school. And I'm working from home, which is not too different, but this is a lot more guaranteed all day family time at home. And I tell everybody, listen, if this is my struggle, having to spend all the days with my family, I'm the luckiest man on the earth. So, some days it gets hard to make sure we're keeping the boys entertained. But again, if that's my biggest struggle, I don't have a worry in this world. I'm doing very well. I'm very grateful to be able to have this time. And as I think a lot of people are realizing, it's a good opportunity if you can take this to reevaluate what matters most in your life. And if you're lucky to have a family and have kids, you get to spend this time with them. I hope you're going to realize what you were missing, and how whenever we get back to, I don't want to say normal, but the ability to choose again what we do with our time freely. I hope we come back with maybe change choices in terms of reprioritizing what matters most. So I'm grateful for this.
It's funny, you do see, it is a strange byproduct of all this, but families going for walks together, board
having
games,
meals together,
walking the dogs. I mean, there is a strange evolution that's come from this that you're right, will make people hopefully change for the better coming out of something so tragic.
Yeah, I think people always say, well, we never have time to stop and assess, and everyone's too busy. Everyone's always too busy to take that break. And I know some people, they go on a vacation to take that break, but this is a forced pause, and I think it's making people have to deal with the reality that I can't use busyness as an excuse to assess where I'm at. So let's assess it, because you have to now. And some people it's a tough truth, and some people it's a great truth. And then you're able to, hopefully when we're able to again have the freedom to choose, we're going to come back with that knowledge of where we're really at, what's great about what we really have, and what needs changing, and make the appropriate steps. So I think it's, on the one hand, I'm always a glass half full guy. I'm always trying to look at the upside of what we're dealing with and how do you make the most of it. I think that's a secret blessing to be able to have this time to make sure we're making use of the time we have on this earth. So I feel lucky.
Yeah. And, there's, probably no arena more affected than pro sports, where you've come from. We're driven by a supplement company that, caters to athletes and things like that. Sports has been affected on all levels, just simply because it's not being played. But there's athletes of all realms out there. There's people, converting to their home gyms, trying to stay in shape, do their routines. it's interesting because you're talking about family there. I watched your retirement video, March, probably 2014.
5 years ago now. Yeah, maybe 6 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one of the big things that came out of that was how much you have a tight relationship with your parents. Or in that video, it appeared that, hey, this is where I came from, and who, a lot of this stuff, is responsible for it comes from your parents. Maybe talk a little bit about that and growing up and sort of how things started for Angus Reid.
Yeah, I'm grateful for so many things in my life, but one of the probably the largest one is one that is pure luck. I was born into a family of two loving parents, and I have 4 older brothers and a younger sister. So I'm one of 6 kids,
family, yeah.
5 boys and a girl. And I don't know if some people think it was good or bad, but I have 4 older brothers. And
yeah,
for
man.
me, it was, I saw it as the greatest upbringing ever, because I had heroes at my own dinner table, and they were 6, 7, 8 years older than me. So I really was their younger brother. And so my whole upbringing was going to their soccer tournaments, their basketball games, their football games. I was just the little brother getting dragged around by my parents, because what else am I going to do? They're not going to leave me at home. So, I had a family that was tight, or that still is tight, and we revolved around supporting each other with whatever we were doing. And we just happened to be in love with sports. So everything was my brother's games. And so I grew up in an environment where it was family first. You cheered for each other. You supported each other. You helped each other. You didn't fight with each other. You were together. And sports was the outlet that we all loved. So, I had this great upbringing of having a close family, never being lonely, never feeling left out, never not having someone to talk to, laugh with, learn from. And then every weekend, or almost every night, it seemed like I had a game to cheer my brothers on, which gave me, but you look at what shapes us, and usually it's the environment we're around and what we constantly are consuming visually or through hearing. And so every night I not only did I see sports being played, but it was my brothers. So it was close. It was possible. I wanted to be like them. And I'm a lucky guy that I've had great role models close to home. I just want to be like my brothers. My parents gave us good guidings, that it was about working hard, trying to help people, bringing your best, all those old school, simple values that I didn't have to go looking for. It was just sort of organically in my upbringing. So, and I'll tell you what, I'm 43 now. We still have a tight family. And I played long enough. I've met enough people to realize I know that's not reality for everybody. So I have that going for me, to have those influences, but also to have that rock when times got tough and you hit adversity and deal with stuff, that I had a family that's, number one priority, support each other, be there for each other, help each other.
Did you find, and you hear this a lot of, of sports families or older brothers and things like that their level and what they were putting into their sports sort of brought you up to another level? You're younger, they're playing sports. I'm sure you have backyard games. Suddenly, though, from a competition standpoint, and I'm sure, it was competitive, but you're playing against somebody, you have their brothers, but they're that much older and more skilled, perhaps. That kind of brought your level up even early on without you even noticing it, right?
I would agree 100%. And I think what happened was my parents had 4 under the age of 3. So they were clumped all there. There's twins there. And they were all very competitive with each other and playing. And I was, again, 6 to 8 years younger than all of them. So I really was their little brother. But there came a point where they let me sort of be the chubby little goalie on the street hockey team.
Okay.
And I got the bad jobs on the team sports, right? But what it did was it allowed me to always be playing with tremendously better people than me.
Yeah,
so I was always reaching, always trying, always just doing anything to want to keep up. And what happened was you understood a different level of playing, and not talent wise, but intensity, the seriousness that they brought to what they were doing. Cause they were, in grade 8 and I'm in grade 2, but to hang out with them, you had to take it seriously. You had to bring your best. You had to not complain or whine or all the things that little kids would do and be okay with. And so I think what I learned most from my brothers were how to go about doing things, because they were always doing it 8 years ahead of me. So then when I'm in elementary and junior high, they're at high school or collegiate ball playing. And so I was always trying to be like them, and they were already doing it always at a higher level. So you saw at an early age what it meant to bring your best and kind of all those attributes that the high level athletes have outside of their talent level, the mindset and the mentality. I knew that because I grew up around it, and I saw them practicing and in the evenings working on the little drills in front of the TV and always trying to improve themselves. And so I learned at a young age, yeah, you have fun with your sport, but it's about what kind of work are you putting in to improve yourself through it, and how hard are you really working on the little things that maybe nobody ever sees. And I watched my brothers do it. So to me,
right.
It was natural. It was normal. It was normal to work on the details, to go home and prepare and study and learn a little bit more, because they showed me that without even me having me to ask. It was just what I knew, how to do things.
I think in any foray in life, it's the fear of the unknown, right? So having that older level of family already paving the way and showing you, hey, you do this, you do that, you do this. And then again, we talk about your parents. None of this happens. You hear Wayne Gretzky, Walter, you hear none of this happens without the parents bringing you to practice, making sure on those rainy days you get out of bed and go do your thing. So we can see a big influence there for sure from your family and your upbringing. At what point, and it sounds like you were kind of surrounded by a lot of different sports. At what point was it sort of football?
So I'll try to compress this story because it's a long one. But my oldest brother Mark, he played football. He went to Simon Fraser and he played for the BC Lions for a year. And I was in grade 7 when that was happening. So you could imagine being a 7th grader getting to go into a pro football locker room after the game, and there's your brother, and there's Doug Flutie, and all these other guys, and you're going, it's surreal, but it's real because this is your brother. So you dream of this now as being what you'd love to do, and there's that touch of possibility because your brother's there. And he only played 1 year, and he was a 5'10" offensive lineman, so he massively surpassed his physical gifts, and he did it. And then one of my older brothers, Bruce, played a year for the Calgary Stampeders and played in Europe. So I had brothers playing football, but I love basketball. And again, the story's long, but I got really sick my first year in high school. I had a ruptured appendix that I didn't tell my parents about for 6 days. So you can do the math on that. I almost died. Really long story. Almost missed that whole year. I was in the hospital for a long, long time. So I didn't play any sports in grade 8, grade 9, or grade 10. I played zero sports.
Right? That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Considering,
I came back to school and I went into a bit of a depression. I was a skinny kid that didn't have confidence anymore. I spent most of my first year of high school in a hospital bed, and I came back kind of lost. And, I always loved football. My brothers played, but it became intimidating for me to come back to something I'd never done. So I didn't play any sports through high school much as I loved it. And my story's crazy because it was going into 11th grade where I realized it's now or never. I got to do something. And those are key
years, right? In an athlete cycle. Years. Like those are formative. You're physically, mentally,
emotionally.
Sure.
You're developing who you are through the activities. And I was kind of a quiet now, I wasn't a confident kid now. My brothers were all gone now. They weren't in the school anymore. It was just me. And that sickness really, really, really brought a lot out of me. And I came back kind of lost. And I just had to make the decision. Football was an opportunity to come out to. It was terrifying for me to join in grade 11.
My God,
I'm not a freak athlete. I'm an ordinary physical body. I was as you said, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 years behind some kids in terms of playing a sport. Yeah. I'd watched it my whole life. Didn't mean I know how to play it. Yeah. And so, I went out for 11th grade football, and truth be told, I was about as good as you'd expect. I wasn't very good. I wasn't some, where's he been hiding? I sat on the bench almost my whole grade 11 year, and I took the road that is appropriate. I got a little bit better every single day. I worked my butt off. I knew how to bring a work ethic. I knew how to do what my brothers had showed me years ago, that you show up, you work harder than anybody, you take coaching, you constantly look at where are you struggling, and that's where you need to work on, not just showcase your strengths, attack your weaknesses. I had great coaches from the get-go that didn't play favorites with me. They just were professional and showed me what I needed to do and encouraged me to do it, rewarded me for doing it, and then challenged me again a little bit more. And I just stayed on the process, and I got a little bit better every day. And by my grade 12 year, I was a pretty good player. By the end of my grade 12 year, I kept getting better. And my sports career was just that classic. I committed, I did everything I could, and good things started working out. And I kind of made my way up.
When you look back, do you recognize that you had a drive and a work ethic that was much better than others, or is it just sort of something that? Because it's almost like when you're in the middle of it, you don't know. You're just blindly trying to get better. Yeah. But now when you look back, you really must have had a commitment that was above and beyond some of the guys that were even more talented, for instance.
There's 2 things I look back in my life now, and I think one of them is really try to dissect how I was able to do things that most guys are like, you're crazy. Why would you? Well, how was I able to stay that committed? personally, like, internally disciplined. I think some of it stems from an insecurity that I needed to be as good as my brothers. I look back now, and it wasn't from them. That was just driven by me, that I worshiped my brothers. They were my heroes, and there was no way I could be like them naturally. So I had to just work as hard as I could to be a somebody in my own family. And I think there might be something to that. And I think there's something to a lot of great athletes where there's that insecurity. They got to prove something to somebody. And
well, especially when it's so important in your family in terms of the baseline that everyone wants to be well.
And what needs to be understood is that was all internally done. My parents never put pressure on any of us. They just cared about, if you're going to do something, do it hard. We don't care if you're good at what, just if you're going to commit to something, do it. That's all that mattered. But I think it was put on myself. And one thing I'm good at, Ian, is I'm very good at telling myself a story. And if I keep selling myself the story, I'll do it. So I could create reality for myself. And, I grew up watching the Rocky movies. So I would sell myself as Rocky. Like, I'd make myself this underdog. So I had to outwork everybody. And I was really good at constantly selling myself on a story that would drive me to bring more. And you'd pit yourself in the story of your life as whatever character you needed to fuel the energy to keep going. Yep. And so I was good at that. I was good at utilizing motivation. I was a guy that always had my heroes on the wall all around me. I had quotes all around me so I could never forget. I was the guy that laced my locker in school with all my heroes. All the big quotes. So there was visual reminders always of what I wanted to do, what it was going to take. And I chose my heroes based on their achievements through work ethic. Like I chose my heroes appropriately that would work for me. I didn't want to choose someone that was the greatest athlete ever because I couldn't relate to that. I couldn't pull any inspiration from that because I didn't have that. So I would study the football guys that were overachievers, that were weight room machines, that were work ethic guys. And I would study them and I would pit them around me. So I had reminders of they made it through this, so I can do that. And I wanted to really, really arm myself with the stories and the motivation of things that were doable for me. And I really think that made a difference. I made relatable inspiration, and that was useful.
It's funny, they say that, on your best day, it's your heroes, that have resonated with you, meaning that you always will seek out the person that is, and that's you on your best day. The people that were your heroes when you were younger are really what represent you and you resonate with. So who were those heroes for you in terms of athletes?
So they're names that not everybody would know unless you're a hardcore football guy. And a lot of them, I lean on my coaches. My high school coach Tony Howie, he graduate assisted coach down at the University of Notre Dame. This was 88, 89 when they won the national championship. And there was a defensive lineman that football fans would know for sure. His name was Chris Zorich, and he was a nose guard that was, 6'1", 280 pound, inner city kid that was just a machine and really an animal, all intensity, all work ethic. And he showed me a story that in high school, they ran out of weights in the weight room, so they started using manhole covers for 45-pound plates.
Resourceful.
And he built his career off working harder than anyone and bringing more passion. I remember I resonated with that. I'm like, well, I can do that. And if he can go there and make that successful, at least I can be the best version. And there was another guy, Steve Ettman down at University of Washington. He won the Outland Trophy, but University of Washington was 2 hours from Vancouver. So it resonated with me. He's close. He's not some faraway land. And again, it was an intensity and it was a training aspect guy that was mentally driven to be the best. And so I would gather all I could. And this is 93. So just pre-internet. So it's not like nowadays where you could Google them, right? So you would gather stories from people and the Sports Illustrated articles, and you'd get bits and pieces. And maybe it was easier back then because your heroes, you could just grab snippets of stuff.
That's right. Whatever you really
that's all you
needed.
Yeah. And that's all you needed, right? You just needed a loose framework. And I was very good at filling in the rest with my imagination. And so you could make them exactly what you needed them to be to fulfill what you needed from them. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it didn't have to be. There's a great phrase I heard when I was reading the All Blacks book, Legacy, where stories don't have to be true for them to be real. And so, and I think we all make decisions based on the stories we tell ourselves. Yep. So again, I was very good at hearing loose information around people that I gravitated with, and I could fill in the rest and make them who I needed them to be to keep me motivated. And honestly, I did that. I still do that today. That's how I operate. Yeah.
So take us to the point then, Angus, from, you said at grade 12, you're emerging talent. Obviously you get into a decision. Hey man, you're at that point, you got to make some decisions here. I could, I could play professionally. Talk about going the next step, the draft, going into the CFL. I mean, that is a place where, 2% of people that even pick up the football will ever see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment. So take us through those years.
So we'll do a whole other podcast on my university life, because it was crazy. Before you go pro, you go to college, and I wasn't a blue chip recruit. I was a good player, not a great player. I didn't have the physical attributes that all the top schools in the U.S. would want. So, I went to our local school, Simon Fraser University, good program, but I was a local kid. And again, we don't have time to get into it. I missed 3 of my 5 college seasons. My stomach went crazy again. I lost 100 pounds. I was told to never play football again. I had ulcers all through my bowel. I was a mess. And so that was a whole recovery period, but I did make it back. And so you talk about a mental swing. Yeah. I made it back. My senior year, I was very dominant at my college level. And then you go to the draft. And again, I was 6'1", which is really short for lineman. I think I was the shortest one there, but I was really strong, really quick. I did well in my testing. So I guess I showed well on the interview. And the Toronto Argonauts ended up drafting me with their number 1 pick, 4th overall in the whole draft.
Number 1. Yeah,
this
amazing.
Is crazy. So get this. I might be the only professional athlete in any sports history to be a number 1 draft pick that got cut in training camp. I never made the team.
It's amazing.
I was their number 1 draft pick. So you talk about mental swing right now, and leaning on and being lucky to have a family at home and a rock. Here you are, a kid that started late to the game, missed 3 of my 5 college seasons, and I become a number 1 draft pick. You think you've made it, right? And then you get cut in training camp, and basically you're being told they made a mistake. You're not good enough.
It's like the stories you hear. Michael Jordan, he was cut from his grade 9 from a high school team, and then,
but not by the Chicago Bulls.
right. It's just the reflection though of holy cow to a massive achievement. And
so I think people's lives are showcased at their best, but they're defined when the most tragedy hits, right? What happens, right. And that's so right. You can make decisions there and believe what they're telling you by their actions, that you're not good enough, or you can make a decision to keep moving forward and go anyways. And so I did what I could do instead of complaining about what they said I couldn't. And you get on the phone and you do what you can to get on a team. And I got picked up by Montreal. They put me on the practice roster for 13 weeks. I never played a day. They traded me home to the BC Lions. I'm like, this is great. I go to the Lions for the last 2 weeks, never play a game. So Ian, my first pro year, it was really late. I was on 3 teams. I never played 1 down of football. It's unbelievable. And I was on 3 teams. Not a very good start. So you talk about adversity early, and I'm a big believer in adversity as early as. But I think the more adversity you have on the front end, you get through it, the easier everything becomes later. You look at people that never have struggles till the end. They haven't learned how to weather any storm. The first storm can hit you pretty hard. Yep. So that laid good foundation for me to build a tougher skin, to keep my perspective on what I can do, to stop worrying about what everyone else is judging me and grading me at, and just keep getting better. Was there a point where you just said, okay, this isn't going to happen? Oh, yeah. So my second season with the Lions, I almost didn't make the team. And I remember going, okay, maybe I don't have it. And I snuck my way through. And then my 3rd year, we got a whole new coaching staff change. And I got a coach that I ended up writing a book about. No, so he was our head coach, but my positional coach named Dan Durazio, and he came in and he became my mentor for the rest of my career, and basically let me know from the get-go that he can't guarantee what kind of career I'll have or if I have one, but he can guarantee that if I bring my best, that's all that's going to matter in my life. And he refined my mentality of all that matters is becoming the best you can be. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But that's irrelevant because that's so many other factors at play. But are you bringing your absolute best? And that's the only thing in life that's going to matter. And he taught me so much about keeping your focus on that. And don't worry about, are you playing enough, or what's the media writing about you? Are you winning the awards, or did you win the game? Those things will come and go. Right? It's about bringing your best to everything you've chosen to do. And he really, really showed me the way that I kind of already intuitively knew, but he sharpened that view of all that matters is what you've chosen to do with your time, and did you bring your very, very best to maximizing it.
What do you think? Every a post career, I think every reporter asks this question, but in your playing days and at your peak, 2 things. What is number 1 your best playing memory, and I know that's probably with the Grey Cups and the All-Stars and things like that. But what also is just the best memory takeaway period from being, a high-end professional athlete in a big city? Those two things, on the field and off, what do you think are your best two?
So we won the Grey Cup in 06, which obviously your first one you win is amazing. I think the 2011 one is a little different because we were 0-5 that year. We were the last place team in the league and told that we were done. And no team in the history of football had ever won a championship starting 0-5. And I remember the media coming on us, looking for scapegoats, who's to blame. And what I love most about that team and what was so memorable is we stuck together. No one sold each other out. No one and you're talking about guys that are going to lose their job. And so it was going to be you or me.
That's
and
tough.
we hunkered down.
Yep.
Yeah, we had great leadership, and we turned that thing around. We were 1-6, and then we won 13 straight games, and we won the Grey Cup at home, and we had destroyed everybody. And what's great about that story is I think we only made about 2 or 3 roster changes out of 55 people. So it was the same people. It was a mindset shift. It was a hunkering down. It was a shifting your focus to getting better right now. Sort
of echoes your whole career, right? Started 0-5 and then won the Grey Cup. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
You're right. You're right. And it's a testament to, again, the strength of mindset. It's not about bringing in better talent. It's about maximizing what you have and building a culture of focusing on what matters and bringing your best to improve each other right now and being accountable to each other. And we did that. And so that memory was a team that we were written off by everybody. We were laughed at by the league.
That's amazing.
And we showed them all and beat them. And then the icing on the cake was the Grey Cup was in Vancouver that year. So we did it at home.
Oh, wow. BC
so we were able to win at home. So I think that's a special moment that you're not going to see, or you haven't seen in sports. And I don't know if you'll ever see anything like that again. So to be a part of that, do it at home, something special right now for me.
And how about personally over that 13-year span? I mean, not that your life hasn't brought, but is there something specific during that growth period as an athlete that stands out off the field? Yeah,
well, okay. I'll tell you one that happened on the field, but it changed me as a person.
Sure.
In 2009, I was on the back end meat of my career. I was 9 years in the league at that point, and I've always been undersized, and I was always, thinking they're going to replace me. But I kept my job. I played very well, and I'd won my All-Stars. And we were a game in Saskatchewan, and I had my first acute injury in my football career. I shattered my foot. I broke every single bone, ripped every single ligament on my foot.
Tough injury.
And I lay on the ground. I'm sitting there going, I'm probably done here. And I thought my career will be done. Like I won't recover from this. And I made the gutsy / stupid decision. I played with it. I got up and I told them I'm fine. And I played 3 more quarters with a shattered foot. And I remember I got out of that game and I had to get surgery and have my foot rebuilt. And they told me I'd never run again. And Wally had the talk with me in that offseason saying, my career is going to be over. They wanted to bring me back as a backup, as a mentor, and then I'll be done. And I remember at that moment going, I'm not. I'm going to make it back.
Yeah.
And it was a test of my will to say, I'm not going to ever mention in the media. I'll never complain. I had to go into my 10th season as a backup and a mentor. And I remember I said, well, I'll make this back. I will prove that I can overcome whatever physical obstacle my life had thrown at me. And I made it back. I team captained again. We won the Grey Cup in 2011. I was league all-star again after that. And I played 3 more seasons. So to me, that's my biggest personal accomplishment, overcoming an issue that I was told would end my career and it didn't. And on a personal level, it once again anchored me and reminded me that it doesn't matter what the outside world is telling you what you can't do anymore. Yep. All that's going to matter is what do you do about it, and where do you put your foot, and what do you want to do, what are you willing to do. And so now in life, it's like whatever people are saying, well, you're never going to be able to do it with this now. That problem's too big. I'll be like, listen, I've heard that before. I've heard that before. Thank you for your opinion. I'm going to make my decision about what I'm going to move forward and do. And so that's a reminder in my life always that, take your advice and heed warnings from people. But at the end of the day, it's going to matter is what are you choosing to do? And are you willing to pay the price to get it done?
Yeah. An athlete's career in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of parents who don't, aren't exposed to sports or they worry, they don't see the benefit of that coming up with a challenge and overcoming it. It's a microcosm for life, right? That athletic field of, there's adversity. How are you going to beat it? There's adversity. How are you going to beat it? And, obviously you have done it many, many, many times. And in fact, I think your last year was riddled with injury, wasn't it? Before you retired, and you had to say, man, this is it. I'm hanging it up. Let's go there now.
Yeah. So my last year, I kind of the cumulative wear and tear of football had taken its toll on me. And my lower back had gone out, and I thought it just gone out, but the surgeon's like, look, this is 20 years of massive compression and massive weights and just squishing it. And I learned that I had an L6, so I'm a bit of a mutant. I had an extra vertebrae in my back, so both my L6s and my L5 were completely herniated out, and they were crushing my sciatic nerve.
It was time. Yeah.
Yeah. So they got to get these discs cut out, and then you're sitting here at 37.
Right.
And I remember thinking, okay, do I want to fight this one back? And then I had to you have to step back once in a while and get out of your emotional state and go, why? 37 years old. What else am I trying to do?
Is there? Yeah.
Now there's life. And am I damaging the rest of my life by being, by just chasing an old dream? And I'll give you one little tidbit that my dad was always great at this. I told my dad early in my career, I said, Dad, don't let me play too long. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I don't want to become one of those athletes that keep playing because I don't know what else to do with my life. Yep. And I'm playing because I'm scared of the other world. And I want to stay here because at least people know me and I'm a somebody, and I can't handle that world, and they're willing to take me. I said, Dad, don't ever let me do that. When it's time to move on, even if they're going to keep paying me, I got to leave. Don't let me get away with that. And he had a nice way of doing this with me. Every off season we talk, and he'd say, tell me about next year. And I was such a visual guy.
Good way to put it, right? Tell me about next year. Yeah.
So I could see it. I could always see next year, and it would make me excited. And so I would chase that vision. I'd chase it and be like, oh no, I can't wait to be doing that.
Right. Put it in your mind.
I remember after my back surgery, he goes, tell me about next year.
Yeah.
And all I kept coming up was memories of my past seasons. And I started forcing it. And I knew then I'm mentally past it. Like I'm not looking forward to it. I'm holding on to yesterday. And I go, I can't chase backwards.
No, absolutely.
And I had to get out of it. And so, the back was a wake up call that physically, I think my body was saying enough's enough. And then mentally I agreed with it, going, I would be playing for the wrong reasons now. And it's time to move on.
And people that, obviously they followed your career after. I mean, you made a very successful transition, TED Talks, published author, things like that. But let's get into a little bit of, obviously with a supplement company involved, we can't not talk about a little bit of training and supplementation. And it's funny, I actually took a screenshot. Anyone that follows us on Instagram might see your training, which is still pretty brutal. Like I think today you were leaning up and down with a chain around your neck, right? I mean, you don't mess around still in the gym, but, talk about training and playing as an athlete, as a football player, and now as a guy that still loves to throw the iron around and keep in shape. What's the difference?
Yeah, so I think anyone that's not an elite athlete has to understand that elite athletes are not generally healthy people. They're extreme. And anytime you're extreme at something, it's at the cost. Well, it's at the cost of something else, right? So you have to look at what is required for this sport, and then you have to maximally pour everything into that at the cost of or at the expense of everything else. And so you're always out of balance. Yeah. And so for my position, it was to be as explosively strong and powerful as possible. My endurance required bouts of 5 seconds of extreme work with 45 seconds of rest. And so, it was how big and how strong could I make my body to invoke damage for very short bouts. And so everything was about maximal strength and maximal size. And so, at the expense of general cardio, and I just needed to be flexible enough. Just anything more work on that would take away from time and energy spent on training. So, I'd say for 20 years, it was ridiculously heavy squats, power cleans, and pressing. And your running consisted of little 5-yard explosive movements. We did a lot of box jumping to keep the hips explosive, but nothing to the conditioning side, because it would deteriorate from your power and probably lose some weight. I mean, I played over 300 pounds for 20 years.
Yeah, I was going to say the weight difference is phenomenal, right? You had
90 pounds.
You had to have your body ready for a specific sport, a battlefield, to take a beating. But you can't maintain that, and there's no reason to maintain that afterwards.
And I think that's what's the hardest thing for a lot of athletes.
I'm sure it is.
In the transition to, and I will talk about my training now, because it's more than I need to do, but a part of it is I love it. But you have to understand what do you need to do to be who you need to be right now. And so for 25 years, I needed to be 300 to 310 pounds. Right. I needed to squat over 600 pounds. I needed to bench press 450 pounds because the job required it. So you did that at the expense of having cardiovascular endurance, or having any type of endurance repetition-wise with your weights, or lesser body fat, because that's not part of the job. And I did it, and I did it well, and it was all on purpose. It was all because I understood the job requirements, and I understood what it required to be able to do them well enough. and it was difficult and tough, but it's what I wanted to do. And then when you transition, you have to look at going, okay, what matters now? What do I need to do? Right. And this is where there's no this is the template for a 40-year-old man. I really believe you have to assess, what do you want out of life, and what are you willing to pay, and what are you willing to compromise to get that? And so for me, I think there's some foundational stuff. I think as we age, we need to maintain muscle tissue strength, or it's going to erode if you don't. You need to maintain enough mobility to be able to move your body and be healthy. You need to limit body fat for a whole bunch of metabolic reasons. Right. And I think you need to maintain muscle strength to keep your bones, tendons, and ligaments strong so you're not susceptible. So I look at that and I say, okay, I personally love to weightlift, so I'm not going to give that up. And the more research I do now, I'm more realizing probably one of the most beneficial things a man over 40 can probably do for their life. So I'm lucky there because I love it.
In fact, it's recognized by the medical community now. Sarcopenia, as they call it, is a new disease that's affecting seniors, period. And all that really means is muscle loss, right? I mean,
correct.
But, keeping yourself strong, mind and body. I think a lot of us, as we age, now you don't have to be throwing, it's a matter of keeping yourself healthy and fit, but maintaining muscle mass is a serious thing as we get older. And I think it affects a lot of people. So, you've obviously kept it up.
But I love it. So I'm fortunate that it got ingrained in me at a young age, and I've enjoyed it. So I do more than you have to, but I hate traditional cardio. I hate it. So I hate it. So honestly, I don't do it. If I get my heart rate up via, I'll shorten rest periods and get a heart rate up by metabolic lifting, because that's what I enjoy to do. Plus running to me is my back has 2 back surgeries, but I still like to do some short sprints. So I go on the grass and do sprints. I'll run hills because I'm used to that. So I'll get a metabolic workout that way. I boil my life down to now, I like to lift heavy, but move fast. And I think as long as I do that, that to me is kind of big formula for fountain of youth. You got to strain the body to be able to move a heavy load, which creates, keeps your testosterone flowing, keeps the bones and ligaments healthy and strong. But to me, it wires my mind right. Move something heavy. Just and move fast when you can. Move fast when you can. Speed is the fountain of youth, right? So absolutely. I either want to move really fast or really slow. So I'm never going to jog. You catch me jogging, there's an imposter out there that's stolen my identity.
That's
okay?
Right. That's right.
I'm either doing short sprints or I'm going for long walks. That's it.
Right. So along with the training, just real quickly, what about sort of diet and supplementation? Obviously, being 300 pounds, the requirements for calories and workload is completely different than what you do now. I mean, obviously, I know you use protein powders and things like that, but what about diet changes from the transition?
So yeah, the diet for an offensive lineman is eat everything, and
whatever you get your hands on.
And I joke with people that the discipline it took for me to be over 300 pounds was more difficult than the discipline for me right now to be 230.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not that big of a guy.
Yeah.
I
the body doesn't want to do that. Yeah.
I played with guys that were born 6'5", 330 pounds. That's just who they are. Like they're I'm not. I'm probably a 240 guy that pushed myself to 310. So that was never-ending eating for 20 years. Everything,
unbelievable.
Protein, carbs, whatever you want.
It's hard to do, man.
I tell people it was fun in my 20s. It got really hard in my 30s.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
You don't want to eat that much, right? It was hard on the system. So what happened afterwards in my diet now is I wouldn't categorize it as a type of diet, but really, really, really lower on the carbohydrates. The carbohydrates have almost, have almost been revolving now around lots of vegetables, minimal fruit. I'll eat some bread, some starch after a big workout because that's where I want it. But really, if I'm not training that day, I regulate my carbohydrate intake drastically on exercise intensity for the day, and I taper it off away from the workout. So I eat tons of meat, tons of dairy, but mostly just with veggies. So everything now is meat and eggs for breakfast, salad with some sort of protein at lunch, and probably something similar for dinner. Snacks are me or cottage cheese and yogurt, and then I'll have my protein powders post workout. Sometimes one before bed. Sometimes I'll take some glutamine extra with that, just to safeguard. Put some extra insurance in that protein powder. I'll cycle in and out of creatine. Not even so much the muscle tissue, but other things I've been reading lately now. More benefits on it, so I'll cycle that through from time to time. Yeah. But really, a variety of flavored proteins. That becomes my my sweet tooth. I'm kind of lucky. I don't really have that much of a sweet tooth. I've always been a meat tooth guy.
Right.
So I don't.
Right,
I'm not a sugar guy.
Said.
I'd take a steak over an ice cream any day, and I always have. So, but I think it's the drastic reduction of just sort of, I don't want to use the word empty carbohydrates, but non-needed. My fuel now would be driven from internally what I have in me, and the protein to rebuild, and the vegetables to make sure all the vitamins and nutrients are there. And I tell people now, I'm 43. I haven't felt as good since I was 16. And so I'm a living testament that you don't have to be broken for the rest of your life after beating yourself up in 20. Your body wants to heal itself. You just gotta get out of its way and give it just what it needs, and so train hard and give it the nutrition that's required. And to me, it revolves around good quality protein and filling the void with good vegetables, and mix in a few things here and there when you want, but that's the cornerstone of what I do.
Sounds like a good balance. And anybody that wants to see Angus training in his home gym, you can you catch him on his Instagram, and also on PVLs. We post quite often of you doing your workouts. So let's wrap up and talk about Angus Reid today. Again, published author. Anybody wants to pick up his book, Thank You, Coach. It's on Amazon. And you're quite a sought after speaker. You've got a long list of speaking engagements, TED Talks, high schools. Just talk a little bit about that and Angus Reid today as we close out here.
Thanks, Ian. It's I've been busy, obviously, with the recent incidents. The speaking has gone down, but we're adapting. We're doing more of this stuff, which is kind of cool.
Zoom is overloaded. You're able to reach
but I realized later in my career, people started being interested in me coming out and sharing my story with kids, and so I started doing that. And then I realized there was a bigger message that adults love to hear too. And today, most of my speaking now is with companies and businesses and sales forces about kind of the mindset it takes to overcome whatever obstacles are in your way to win, and the mentality that a champion takes to their daily practice, and all the things that can apply to anybody that I learned through sports of being someone that's gonna do things not just more but better. And constantly have the mindset of showing up. And these are simple things, but I think the greatest separator between anybody is the person that will always show up no matter what, and will always bring their best. And I know that sounds very simple, but I guarantee you, we all know most people don't do that. Most people won't show up no matter what. Most people are okay with excuses that will allow them to get out of things. And not everyone brings their very best. Most people don't, and they bring what they think is enough. And I learned from my coach in the book I talk about that, the great ones aren't about having more talent. The great ones always show up, and they always bring their best. And over time, those are the ones that are still there winning. When talent will come and go, talent will get lazy, talent will get tired, talent will get bored, talent will find other things that are shinier down the road to go chase their attention. But you hunker down and choose what you want to do with your life. You commit to doing it. You show up and do everything that's required to the very best of your ability. You're going to do just fine. And it sounds very simple, but the neat thing is that's available to everybody, every moment right now. Absolutely. And there's no excuse not to do that. And that's what's going to be your separator, not wishing you had a better computer or better software or better equipment. Sure. I mean, that's not going to be the game changer over time. And that's been proven time and time again. That's my big message. And I share it because I didn't make it in pro sports because I had more gifts and more talents. I made it because I chose this is what I wanted to do, and I was willing to do what it took, and I never stopped. And it works everywhere.
Well, your life is certainly a reflection of that hard work ethic. We appreciate you telling us your story today. Very inspirational. And our first episode, our inaugural, The Athlete's Edge with Angus Reid today. We thank you very much.
Can I leave you with a very quick PVL plug story?
Yes.
So, Jim had been supporting the BC Lions since I got there, but I didn't know.
Jim McMahon is our CEO.
Jim's CEO.
Great guy.
He's been a big Lions fan.
There you go.
And so ever since I was there was protein powders for the guys, but I had never met him. And this was and then after I shattered my foot in 2009, about a week later, a large care package shows up at my house with lots of protein, lots of glutamine.
That sounds like Jim.
Yeah, a lot of and a big note saying, here's to getting better. You need lots of glutamine in the system right now, sure. Up to protein. He kind of gave me some words of wisdom. We need to see you on the field next year, champ. We got to get this Grey Cup. Whatever else you need from me, you let me know, Jim. I heard of who he was, so I knew who it came from.
Yes.
And I tell people, like, that's somebody right there that actually cares about their athletes and players. He's not sitting here. That was not a public marketing campaign. He just wanted to take care of an athlete. And it was Jim. That moment that I realized, how can I help? How can I support this person back? And we built our friendship from that moment on. And I remember we won the Grey Cup 2011. PVL was my first stop, and it was a snowstorm that day, and he didn't expect me to show up. I said, we're going to show up. We're dumping whey protein in this thing. We're going to have some fun drinking it out. And the friendship was built off him reaching out and only just caring about trying to help me in my career get back on track in the way that he could. And that was how it began. And I tell you, I know companies sponsor and deal with people for various reasons, but our relationship began with a guy that just cares about athletes and how can he support them and help them. And I've never forgotten that. And so from that moment on, I've just been loyal to PVL, not only because the product is superior, but the people there, like yourself, Ian and Jim, you care. And that's a difference maker. And that's not something that we can say about everyone out there. And so thank you guys for being a company that makes a great product and actually cares about your people.
Well, absolutely. And, Jim is a fantastic guy. The brand is very proud to be associated with you. Our relationship's going to grow. PVL fans, you'll be seeing a lot of Angus out there. We'll close off the podcast now. Be safe, keep well from your friends at PVL. And thank you, Angus Reid, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.